gonna make a great senator. True story. True story. True story.
What is it with Kamala Harris and how she talks to the public as if they're toddlers? You know what I'm saying?
Or as a certain former president would say, yes, we can.
Trump or Kamala?
Trump.
Trump. There you go. You, mother. Trump or Kamala Harris? Kamala.
Careful.
Wait, is this your daughter? She said Donald Trump. You say Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, and that's pretty. That's
that works.
Does
Trump
that?
is better.
Right, she says Trump is better. Awesome. What makes you think Donald Trump's better?
I think if North Korea comes and they're trying to make us a war, I think Trump will scare them away.
Oh my gosh, this might be the smartest young lady I've ever met.
Respect to that mom for letting her kids have their own opinions, you know? And it's not like they can vote, but at least they have the right to decide who they like better between Donald Trump and Kamala. Now, this issue is becoming much bigger for the Harris campaign, given that swing states are now lining up for Donald Trump. In fact, many voters within the swing states are letting Kamala Harris know that they're done.
Macomb County, Michigan. These suburbs just north of Detroit are a blue-collar bellwether. Joseph Knowles about to send a message, about to defy his union leadership, about to vote Republican for president for the first time, about to vote for Donald Trump.
And at this point now, I'm desperate. So I'm willing to try anything right now to make sure that I can fulfill my responsibility and to take care of my wife and kids. That's all I care about.
Knowles is a union auto worker, one of 1,100 just laid off by Stellantis, the parent company of Chrysler Jeep. He blames corporate greed the most, but doesn't stop there.
The second blame, I will put it on Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. Why? Because of the EV mandates. I thought the Democratic Party was for the working class, people, the average Joe like me. That's what I thought.
There are more American auto jobs now than at any point of the Trump presidency. But auto workers supporting Trump here echo his attacks on Biden's clean energy incentives and his claim illegal immigrants are to blame for lost jobs.
But if you do it the wrong way, I think you should get round up and just thrown out. I have no problem with that because it jeopardizes my way of providing for my kids if they take jobs.
Knowles waves off friends who call Trump racist, says he doesn't believe Vice President Harris is up to the job, and he spars with family members who say he should stay a Democrat.
Oh, man, I took it from my mom, from my auntie, cousins, my sister. They came at me.
And it's not a mystery as to why they're arguing with him. The idea is that the black community should align with the Democratic Party. That concept is slowly fading though. Now, if you're black, you're expected to vote blue. Trust me, I've been pressured, but I ain't trying to hear none of that nonsense. And yet their promises have mostly been broken. But if you ask them, they're surprised as to why Kamala Harris isn't getting as much support from black men this time around. Now, this is leading to that light bulb moment within the Democratic Party when they realize that the cost of living is so much more important than some of the things that they're prioritizing, and that the struggle that most Americans are feeling right now can be pinned on the Biden-Harris administration. So it's not about sexism or racism, it's about policy. It's about living and thriving in a first world country. But if you ask some analysts on the left, they'd argue that this isn't the case.
On the factory floor, they say there's more racism and sexism now. Before it was just Biden's too old. We don't like the Trump voters within the union auto plants were saying Biden's too old, or Trump will bring back jobs, or they don't like the EV mandates. Now the workers who support Harris say they're hearing more racism and more sexism. The sexism, they say, reminiscent of 2016, where a lot of men who worked the assembly line said we're not ready for a woman president, or she's not tough enough or not strong enough. The racism that, one voter who's not in this piece we've talked to several times, Walter Robertson, a black man, he says he starts to engage sometimes and then he realizes he's not going to change their mind. But he says a lot of disparaging racial talk about the vice president. He says they're just parroting what they hear from Trump.
It's always Trump's fault, right? Mainstream liberal media is working overtime to push this narrative that the former president is a racist, or that this is all misogyny. Now, granted, Donald Trump can be polarizing when it comes to his words. I get it. But it's also true that many fail to hear the underlying message. It's like these Democrats are leaning into every single word without considering what Trump is actually trying to say here. Was it a metaphor? Was it a euphemism? Was it an exaggeration? They don't even consider that when they're talking about the former president. But voters who actually think for themselves themselves understand that not everything is to be taken literally.
RFK joining Trump effectively, I couldn't script it any better the way I would like it to be. I love the idea of Donald Trump being the commander-in-chief. I love the idea of how Donald Trump handles the nefarious characters in the world.
Govier believes more than half of UAW members at his Ford plant will vote Trump. He says Harris laughs too much, and he can't take her seriously.
So what is it? You're the incumbent who wouldn't do anything different, or are you the underdog that wants change?
And he says critics take Trump too literally.
You know, he does it for effect. I don't believe that Trump really believes someone's eating cats and dogs. I don't believe that he's going to call the National Guard out and at gunpoint round up every migrant and force them across the border. I don't believe that for a second.
Now, I'm not sure why he can't take Kamala Harris seriously. Have you seen her on the campaign trail lately? She's out there putting out classics like this one.
I was like, Mommy, you know, the thing about this, I always wanted to go to Howard, and I went to Howard. And actually, it was in February of 2004. Olives with cream cheese on dark rye. And so it's remember, I'm a prosecutor. I have focused on that. I mean, in a nutshell. Yeah. And it was the assessor at the time. Can you perform some marriages? We need more people. And every nook and cranny of City Hall. Yes. Important is that we also appreciate the nuance. You know, there's a lot to do. There's a lot more to do. Who's over the age of 18 as though they're an adult. You know, because it was doubling it, right? Right, where poor people sit in jail and people who have money get out.
You know what? I could see his point from this perspective. It also helps that Donald Trump has proven himself in the White House. He's dealt with foreign nations masterfully. He also took care of global security because there were no wars under his leadership. That could mean the obvious, where world leaders respected his authority. Now, some might even say that he's an intimidating figure when it comes to the global stage, because this guy literally said to North Korea's leader that he's got a nuke button and he's not afraid to use it. Now, the goal is to have a leader who plans on leading us to better days, which is why these narratives of race and gender are not working for a lot of voters. We need results, and we need them quick. Kamala Harris has been in office for almost 4 years, and yet she's talking about bringing change to our lives. Now, if you had the answers all along, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you tell President Joe Biden? Because President Joe Biden himself admits that Kamala Harris was right there during the big decisions that were made under his administration. So I guess it's pretty safe to say that the blame that voters wanted to pin on him has been transferred to Kamala Harris. I used to feel like I was just spinning my wheels, constantly working, but not getting ahead. You ever feel that feeling? You know what that feels like, right? I mean, I would look around and I used to wonder, why am I not making the progress that I know I'm capable of? And it wasn't until I found a group of people who had figured it out that I started to see results myself. The Life Pursuit Network is exactly that, a community where financial success is not only possible, but it's the freaking norm. You'll get access to the strategies and the tools that others have used to get ahead. For less than $1 a day, you can join a group that's focused on real growth. Stop struggling on your own and start achieving growth and your goals with us. Hit the link down in the description down below and join us over in the Liberty Pursuit Network today.
This concept of isolation, we were once there as a nation, and then Pearl Harbor happened. Let's remember recent history. Europe remembers it well. When we got attacked, Pearl Harbor, we jumped in. And it is because America jumped in that we were ultimately able to win that war. And it should be a constant reminder to us, we have to remember history, that isolationism, which is exactly what Donald Trump is pushing, pull out of NATO, abandon our friends. Isolationism is not insulation. It is not insulation. It will not insulate us from harm in terms of our national security. So I say that to emphasize a point that the Congresswoman made.
So I guess that's why we're helping out Ukraine and all these other countries with billions of dollars in funding and weapons, right? But at the same time, you got veterans struggling to find a home, people on Social Security struggling to pay for their needs. Now, with that being said, do any of you guys believe that this war is the answer to our problems? Or should they instead focus on putting Americans first? Now, speaking of which, billionaire ex-CEO Elon Musk is thinking about the American people right now. In fact, he's giving away $1 million a day to random people who sign a petition in Pennsylvania. She offers a whole lot of nothing here. And like clockwork, Donald Trump is at fault for everything that's wrong with America today. That he's the guy who wants to divide us. That the American dream is now out of reach because he was the president 4 years ago. Which is kind of amusing to say the least, because even Kamala Harris knows that it was their administration that killed that very dream.
And, you know, the idea of the American dream was something that previous generations could count on, not as much anymore.
She's right. There's no amount of propaganda that can change what's happened during her term. Because if things were great, the message should be one that continues the policies and the ideals of President Joe Biden. But instead, they're doing their best to defer the blame of their mistakes to Donald Trump. Something that's not working because I think they forgot to tell the president of their game plan. I mean, just take a look at any Kamala Harris interview where they talk about the economy or immigration. She always says that Trump's at fault for what's happened during their term.
One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis.
When you become president, what would be your specific steps? Yeah, of course. What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question. You know, my background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me.
But it's going to take a lot of fake reports to convince these people otherwise. Nayara was quoted in saying that he looked us in the eye. The way he communicated with us, the way he greeted my children in the backseat, it was incredible. My kids were saying, I can't believe I shook Donald Trump's hand, which shows us how connected Donald Trump is to the people. And I gotta talk about AOC's insane comment about Elon Musk giving away $1 million a day to people who really need it. Now, again, I'm just gonna have to remind her that she is a supporter of taking money from rich folks. I think she even wore a dress specifically to say just that. But since it's Elon Musk that's doing it, she's suddenly changing her tone. She's now saying that it's a bad thing if billionaires give away money to struggling Americans. It's kind of like she can't even pick a side at this point. And it's hilarious coming from her given that she hasn't done anything for the working class. So it's kind of hypocritical to call out Donald Trump and Elon Musk for helping the American people when you yourself can't do it. And Musk isn't even working for the government. And unlike Kamala Harris, Donald Trump rarely takes a break from work.
2 weeks to go until Election Day, and Democrats just yanked Kamala Harris off the campaign trail. She took the day off. 0 campaign events today. And the only thing on her schedule, 2 interviews, not even live. She spent all day preparing because that last interview with Brett, not that great. Or maybe she wasn't preparing at all. We'll show you the interviews later and you can decide for yourself. Trump says maybe she was getting her beauty rest.
She's sleeping right now. She couldn't go on the trail. You know, you think when you have 14 days left, you wouldn't be sleeping. Think of it. I said, where is she campaigning today? Sir, she's got a day off. You have 14 days left for the presidency, and she's taking a day off. This is not what you want. This is not what you want. I can't get over it. Who the hell takes off? You have 14 days left, and she'll take a couple of more days off, too. You know why? She's lazy as hell, and she's got that reputation.
Let me see if we have this right. Kamala calls Trump exhausted and then takes the day off. McDonald's, football games, barbershops, town halls, roundtables, rallies. You've seen them. Kamala today didn't talk to a single voter. She stayed home in D.C.
Which begs the question, Which of the two are actually making fun of the working class? The one who's doing events every single day, or the one who needs to take a day off right before the 2024 presidential election?
You're gonna make a great senator. True story. True story. True story.
What is it with Kamala Harris and how she talks to the public as if they're toddlers? You know what I'm saying? Now, you might think that this is dated, so let's go ahead and grab a much more recent clip of her talking as if she were drunk.
I want you to shout your own name for a minute. Let's do that really quickly. Shout your own name for a minute. That's what I'm talking about, because it's about you. It's about your family. It's about you.
There were so many who speculate that Kamala Harris has a drinking problem. And we all know that she drank a beer with Stephen Colbert on his late night show. Now, Trump, on the other hand, says that he's never ever had any alcohol in his entire life, something that he actually shares with President Joe Biden. But mainstream liberal media is doing its best to say it's Donald Trump and not Kamala Harris that's been drinking heavily.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that Donald Trump says he doesn't drink, but this feels like drunken behavior. I think he's probably microdosing like his friend Elon Musk.
Now, this narrative has been echoed by the Harris-Walz campaign. In fact, they're now saying that the former president is exhausted and that he's canceling events left and right. Well, this video that's been sped up 50 times doesn't show that Trump is tired. These are both from rallies in Detroit, Michigan, guys. Kamala Harris spent less than 7 minutes doing her speech. Meanwhile, Donald Trump was on stage for more than an hour. Trump has also done more than double the interviews that Kamala Harris has. He's also held 6 press conferences while Kamala Harris has yet to do a single one. And just for the month of September, the former president has been able to do 21 campaign events compared to Kamala Harris's 13. So basically, Donald Trump's running circles around her. And I also guess that this debunks the theory from the left and those within mainstream media. These events and rallies may be contributing to why Donald Trump is becoming much more popular. Hey, even CNN can't deny this fact. Check this out.
I think there are a lot of folks such as myself who think that Donald Trump's unpopularity is baked in. But here's the deal. If you believe that Donald Trump has somehow become less popular over time, let me change your mind about that. In fact, he is more popular at this point in the campaign than he was at this point in the 2020 campaign or the 2016 campaign. Look, he's still underwater, right, with a negative 9-point net favorability rating. But that is higher than he was in 2020 at minus 12 points when he nearly won. And it is way higher than the minus 27 net favorability back in 2016 when he did win. So I think there's this real question in Kamala Harris's mind, in the campaign's mind, why is Trump more popular now than he was at this point in 2020 and 2016? And I think that is why you're seeing the sharpening attacks, because they want to put him back down to here, or even there's no way that they're necessarily going to back down to here, but they want to make Trump more unpopular than he is right now, because he's more popular now than either point in 2020 or 2016.
So this could be what they're saying with regard to with Donald Trump, but could it have something also to do with what they're saying with their candidate, with Kamala Harris or something?
Yeah, look, Kamala Harris is more popular than Donald Trump. But Kamala Harris had her popularity rising once, of course, she became the presumptive Democratic nominee. Look, she was at minus 15 points back on July 17th, then minus 4 points on August 17th, then 1 point on September, plus 1 point. She was actually in positive territory a month ago, but she has fallen back down to minus 1. The momentum of Kamala Harris has stalled. And I think they feel like they have to change something that's going on in their campaign, because they were seeing a rise and now it is stalled out. Look, she's still more popular than Trump. But look, Joe Biden was more popular than Trump, much more, and barely won. And Hillary Clinton was more popular than Donald Trump and lost. Being more popular than Trump isn't enough. She wants to continue to see her favorabilities rise, but in fact, they're going in the wrong direction at this point.
In a nutshell, the more Trump talked in front of people and the cameras, the more people liked him. It's now shaking things up within the whole Democratic Party, as there are a number of lawmakers who are now distancing themselves from the vice president. Now, guys, I covered this in a previous live stream that you got to check out for yourselves. As always, thanks so much for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. I'll see y'all next time.